I'm here with a pretty modest goal, as you can hear from the title of the book. I'm here simply to change the way you think about how you became you. It's no big deal. I'm sure we can accomplish that in 20 or 30 minutes. But first, before we get into the serious business of how human beings become who they are, let's go with something a lot simpler. You've all seen this before. Light stick, glow stick, whatever you want to call it. An ordinary piece of plastic, but when you crack it and shake it around, you get this apparently magical glow. So the question is, what causes this glow? What is our explanation for this extraordinary light coming from the plastic? Humans need explanations for things. We can't live without explanations. If we don't have the correct explanation, we need to have some understanding to tell ourselves before we move on. So what would the explanation have been for this glow a couple of centuries ago? Most likely, most people would have said that either God or the devil was causing this glow. You fast forward a few centuries, and today we know what causes this glow. Pages are stuck. And I had to look this up, of course. I'm not a glow stick expert, but there are 5 chemicals neatly separated into 2 compartments. There's a fluorescent dye. In the larger tube are a fluorescent dye, a derivative of phenyl oxalate ester called xylem, the catalyst sodium salicylate, and a solvent. Flowing separately in the smaller glass capsule is a 35% concentration of hydrogen peroxide. So you crack it, you're breaking the smaller tube inside. The chemicals mix together. The peroxide oxidizes the xylem, prompting the release of the peroxy acid, which quickly decomposes into carbon dioxide, and in the process gives off enough energy to excite electrons in the dye, which in turn releases photons of light. I know you didn't come to learn about glow sticks, but there's a point to this. And the point is, again, to ask the question, what's causing the glow? Which of those 5 chemicals is causing this glow? And obviously, the answer, it's a trick question. None of the 5 chemicals are causing the glow. The answer is that the glow is being caused by the interaction of the chemicals. And to try to separate out one or more chemicals as being the actual cause, or contributing part of the glow on its own would be foolish. It's the interaction itself. So let's transition now to human ability, and I want to start with another prop. I'm going to play you just 30 seconds or so of Yehudi Menuhin playing his violin rather well. You've all heard great violinists before, but I thought it would be fun to hear that again. Where's that amazing ability coming from? We need an explanation. We all need an explanation. We need some sort of understanding of where it's coming from. Whether we actually know where the ability is coming from or not, we need to tell ourselves something. So, again, going back in time, 300 years ago, most people probably would have said that amazing ability was coming from God. 100 years ago, probably most educated people would have said that ability is coming from genes. We've discovered these things called genes, and they determine our traits, and so obviously it's coming from genes. Now, if you ask someone in the general public, they'd say, well, it's nature and nurture. It's obviously partly genetic. You couldn't have it without some special genes, but you have to polish it off with some pretty special nurturing, and that seems to be kind of the common consensus these days. But listen to a couple quotes from how scientists now talk about genes, and let's see if we can advance that public understanding a little bit today and try to improve on the language rather than just saying it's nature plus nurture. This is McGill University's Michael Meany. Quote, "There are no genetic factors that can be studied independently of the environment, and there are no environmental factors that function independently of the genome. A trait emerges only from the interaction of the gene and the environment." And here's another quote from Cambridge University biologist Patrick Bateson, who I rely on quite extensively in my book. "In each case, the individual starts its life with the capacity to develop in a number of distinctly different ways. Like a jukebox, the individual has the potential to play a number of different developmental tunes. But during the course of its life, it plays only one tune. The particular developmental tune it does play is selected by the environment in which the individual is growing up." And then he adds, "Even in the case of eye color, the notion that the relevant gene is the only cause is misconceived because of all the other genetic and environmental ingredients." And I'm going to now move to my third prop, which is I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, not of eye color, but of a nice little demonstration of how genes don't determine things quite the way we think of it in the general public. This is a picture of a cat named Rainbow. Probably there are a few people in the audience who recognize that name. I think we've got a highly educated audience. But before I ask if there are any, let's take a look at the second picture. And this should give it away to some people. This is a cat named Cece. Anyone want to tell me why this cat is named Cece? It's two C's. Carbon copy. It stands for carbon copy. The reason Cece was named carbon copy is that she is a clone of Rainbow. So if you thought that cloning would give you this replica because of the genes, you're looking at some nice evidence that that doesn't happen. Those are the same two cats that are in side-by-side pictures. So what is enabling this amazing violin playing? What's enabling people to play great basketball? What is making people smart or not so smart? What makes my son's eyes greenish-brown? Is it the genes plus the environment? Is it nature plus nurture? Actually, no, and this is important. It's the interaction between genes and the environment. And here's the great news. Here's why we're talking about all this as a prelude to talking about ability, human potential and ability. We can have an impact on that interaction. Not to say we can control it completely or that we'll ever learn enough to completely control it. But in the way we lead our lives, in the way we learn, work, practice, talk, read, study, teach, exercise, strive, we can impact that interaction a great deal. And the more we learn about the interactions, the more we can impact them. Genes do have an influence in everything that we do and everything that we are. And we all have genetic differences, that much is obvious. But my contention with this book is that we've been badly misled about how that influence works and how interactive it can be. And that we're using the wrong words to talk about it, and that we need to start searching for a whole new language to come closer to a better understanding and a more empowering understanding. Intelligence, I would submit, is not innate. Talent is not a matter of genetic giftedness. And nature versus nurture, or nature plus nurture, doesn't do it either. It has to be this understanding of nature constantly interacting with nurture.